risks and opportunities. Numerous lessons have proved that this cannot be solved by improving management technology. In addition, from the subprime mortgage crisis to the financial crisis, it is not only the result of regulatory indulgence or absence, but also financial derivatives. The essence of the game of beating drums and passing flowers that requires continuous takeover is determined. Financial derivatives can indeed trade, hedge, and transfer risks. But whether it's futures and options, various credit default swaps, CDS, no matter how ingenious and complex the design, it can't change the fact of their zero-sum game. The problem with subprime loans is that in Europe and Asia, one is due to conservative traditional practices and the other is due to learning from mistakes. Except for a few institutions involved both domestically and internationally, the majority of transactions still occur between financial institutions in the United States. Once economic fundamentals such as real estate are reversed and transmitted to the financial market, and once there are no major players outside the financial system to pay, well, Wall Street can only digest them. More importantly, since the essence of derivatives is to evaporate for risk avoidance and regulation, it also surpasses constraints imposed by current trading methods. In fact, rather than Greenspan's neoliberalism causing investment banks to greedily and continuously amplify leverage like gamblers with leverage ratios of over times for Bear Stearns, Lehman, and Merrill Lynch, which means their liabilities per dollar of assets reach over dollar. It is more like being caught by the explosive development of global virtual financial markets. I believe that continuous innovation in financial instruments can provide conditions for creating continuous hotspots, allowing currency flows to flow continuously between various virtual financial markets without damaging the real economy. But now that the financial crisis has erupted and Wall Street is facing the return of the Keynesian ghost, the U.S. government has not only managed to Fannie Mae and American International Group have also issued a billion-yuan rescue plan with twists and turns, and strengthened supervision over the only two major investment banks by incorporating them into commercial banks. Does this mean the convergence of financial leverage and growth? Judgment is absurd. From the perspective of the disposal method of non-performing assets after major evaporation, it is highly likely that the soup will change without changing the dressing, which is still the Wall Street style deliberation. But punishment is not applicable to officials, which is not detrimental to the increasing trend of administrative monopoly. Objectively speaking, behind this phenomenon of slow and swift dual heaven, there is a change in the weather of reform, which means reform we have shifted from the field of ideology to a strategic layout at the level of interests. During the pro-reform period, the attention of various sectors of society was focused on the basic direction of society, such as whether the reform should be carried out, whether it was capitalist or socialist, etc. This also sparked two major reform debates in the early S and early S Deng Xiaoping cleverly bypassed these ideological disputes and successfully opened up an era of development through his speeches on three treatises and Southern Expedition. In the post-reform period, reforms were constantly hijacked and internalized by interest groups, and people with rice in their hands began to let their buttocks determine their minds, setting various obstacles at the level of interests. As for the current regulation of capital finance and the rapid efforts of state-owned enterprises and state-owned enterprises, but the slow response to market construction and scientific coordination. This seemingly split phenomenon is the result of the distribution of interests. Take China Investment Corporation as an example. CIC has gathered a group of H-level officials from the Ministry of Finance, Huajin Corporation, the China Banking Regulatory Commission, and the National Development and Reform Commission. It is not difficult to infer from the identities of influential senior officials at the ministerial and deputy levels that CIC has actually concentrated the ideas and interests of a generation. The chairman was originally a reformist expert in the market economy known as one of the three swordsmen of economic system reform. But later, as the official ladder rose, he became obsessed with the effectiveness of state-owned and administrative monopolies. If it is said that this dual personality of front and back fracture is caused by the buttocks determining the brain, it is probably not too much. The duality of this personality is more evident in another reformist swordsman, the general manager of CIC. As one of the earliest sea turtles to land in China, he returned home from Wall Street in the S with the belly full of Western economics Inc. Similar remarks such as "what we want is a clean market and let the market manage the market" clearly indicates his market-oriented background. Due to his successful initiation of the establishment of the Chinese securities market, he also rose to prominence in his career. Afterwards, he also showed a similar fascination with the hands of the government. In terms of this issue, the leaders in relevant fields become stories. That is, who can tell stories, whose stories are more credible, and who has more wealth. At present, investment banks seem to be the king of stories. Whether it's internationally renowned Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, or China's struggling private equity funds, they are all passionate about telling stories, ranging from building friendships with the president and prime minister to hyping up rumors about the chairman of a listed company. The purpose of hype is nothing more than to increase their equivalent. The financial civilization does not exist independently of other civilizations, but is linked to the first three civilizations. For example, agricultural listed companies graft financial civilization onto agricultural civilization, amplifying the achievements of agricultural civilization several times or tens of times through a financial civilization. Technology-based venture capital funds graft financial civilization onto industrial and information civilization, greatly improving the efficiency of industrial and information civilization. At present, the most successful grafting is still in investment (NKS), including popular IDG technology venture capital funds, VC venture capital, PE private equity investment, etc. Each of the four economic civilizations has its own differences. The older the era, the more complete its knowledge system is. However, at the same time, its knowledge is the efficacy also accelerates the decline. The characteristics of different economic civilizations vary greatly, and the corresponding knowledge systems have significant differences. Judging the development trend of the next civilization based on the knowledge laws of the previous civilization is similar to the Battle of Guangdong and at present the society is generally unaware of the arrival of financial civilization. Forks. Firstly, price reform once again faces a fork in the market or administration. At that time, the marketization of consumer goods was radical. The one-step implementation led to severe inflation with CPI reaching %, and some major cities such as Beijing exceeding % indicate in that price reform is not as simple as marketization. The shock therapy severely damaged economy of Russia is a clear proof. Today, if the price of resource goods is released at once, it is likely to repeat the price breakthrough of years. But price controls also distorts the market. For example, market coal plant power has made % of state-owned power enterprises lose money, and % of Shanxi power enterprises capital chain may be broken or will lead to power shortage this summer. It can be seen that price marketization is still a major direction, but the market-oriented transformation from planned thinking cannot be achieved overnight, which often requires a process. Therefore, in the process of reform, it is necessary to adhere to the marketization of prices while maintaining social stability through administrative power. Undoubtedly, becoming the leader of left-ping the standard of right balance. Secondly, the direction of price reform has been determined, but the market-oriented approach faces a choice, which is to linearly follow the god painting or non-linear feeling stones crossing the river. In the SU, under the advocacy of price liberalization both domestically and internationally, the world believed that long pain is better than short pain. In a shortage economy, the feasibility of directly connecting prices through linear deduction not only failed to achieve price reform, but also triggered a wave of panic buying and hoarding, which taught profound lessons. But this attempt precisely proves that Western medicine cannot cure all diseases, and the linear approach is not suitable for China's atypical, high complexity, and multi-drop national conditions. The reason why we were able to overcome the dilemma of consumer goods reform back then was still due to the dual-track system that can simultaneously balance history and development. This non-linear innovation is a dual-track system on an incremental basis, gradually rewriting the price mechanism through price liberalization in the production field. In fact, this integration under the shortage economy has been undergoing twists and pains until the economy shifted from shortage to surplus and it was only then that it was natural and normal to connect. From this it can be seen that the feasible path for resource price reform is still a dual-track system. But this dual-track system is not the same as in the previous market became popular in countries such as India, emphasizing the government's control over currency flow, which became the mainstream opinion in academia, and most mathematicians were still advocating for free currency floating before this. At the same time, discussions about the financial explosion in China are also on the rise, with the mainstream view that China is at the center of the vortex and has a high probability of crisis. They are worried that China will be blown up and then destroyed. In fact, the current situation of China's finance is more aptly described as the financial explosion because it represents a long-awaited energy, and the process of ultimately entering the financial explosion can be controlled by the government. In the absence of a sound financial system in China, relevant departments will not easily loosen financial regulations. As a result, China's financial civilization will transition from the financial explosion to a controlled explosion. From the perspective of Chinese reality, industrial civilization and agricultural civilization are still ongoing, and information civilization is beginning to emerge. The financial industry, on the other hand, belongs to the model of strict national regulation and a conservative approach. At this moment, entering the financial civilization still requires several hurdles. The first is the effective grafting of financial civilization with industrial civilization, agricultural civilization, and information civilization. As China's economic development mainly depends on backward state-owned enterprises, the traditional economy civilization dominated by these state-owned enterprises is likely to be magnified in the financial civilization, and finally destroyed by the financial civilization. Once the country liberalized the private economy and the innovation vitality of the whole society, it is likely to enter a benign interaction state of the four civilizations. The second is the level of understanding of the game rules of financial civilization by relevant parties, and the degree of subversion of the wisdom of industrial civilization. For example, many experts believe that the phenomenon of nationwide stock trading is abnormal and a signal of the stock market reaching its peak, while officials from the State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission believe that nationwide stock trading is a great thing due to our limited knowledge. It is difficult to grasp it clearly within a limited time frame, regardless of the purpose for which this statement is made. At least it indicates that the management still allows room for discussion on new phenomena, rather than blindly denying them. China's hybrid finance effectively balances tolerance and control, and may dominate the next wave of financial civilization.